I'm really liking this part a lot, Tom.
I would argue that Mr. Potter is one of, if not the greatest all-time villains in cinema history. There might not be anybody better than Mr. Potter. And I would imagine that you bring quite a bit of your own flair to that role. And so I would encourage folks to definitely get out there and check out It's a Wonderful Life. Like I mentioned, a lot to get to on the program today. Paul, let's start with Thursday night football last night.
All right.
It was
God. Do we have to?
Ridiculous.
Oh my gosh.
We got to talk about it a little bit. And the reason is, considering both teams play in the same division as the Kansas City Chiefs,
I got you.
We should probably, touch on that a little bit. I missed the first half of the game. I checked on the halftime score, and it was 42-0 Raiders over the Chargers. And I thought, man, what the heck is going on here in this game? Aiden O'Connell was out there looking like Joe Montana throwing the football, 4 touchdown passes for him. The final score, Raiders 63, Chargers 21. And that 21, touchdowns came in garbage time for the Chargers. It was a beatdown of epic proportions for the Las Vegas Raiders. And this comes only 4 days, Paul, after the Raiders only scored 3 points against the Vikings on Sunday. They put up 63 4 days later. I think the place to start on this, how does Brandon Staley still have his job as the Chargers head coach?
Well, he's had some success, and I don't think it's a fact that he can't coach. I don't think that's it. But, Tommy, I'm about to say something, and in all the years that you have ever done sports talk radio, you'll probably never brought this up. You probably never thought about this because it never, ever happens. And that is seeing a professional football team quit. Stop playing. Decide that I'm serious. I mean it. And I mean stop early in a game. And when you stop early, the caliber of players that are on that field, and when a team quits, it can get pretty ugly. Oh, wait a second. It did get pretty ugly. But we saw the Los Angeles Chargers last night really lay down, stop playing. Now I understand turnovers are demoralizing, and there were a ton of them. I think in the first half, correct me if I'm wrong, there were 3 fumbles alone in the first half. And that's enough to demoralize the football team. But gentlemen,
they had 5 total turnovers in the game. The Chargers did.
Yeah. So that sounds about right. So here's the thing. I don't think I've ever witnessed a professional football team lay down like that. We've seen it on an occasion in the NBA. We've seen teams get up by 40 and then they're just going through them. We see that. It's not uncommon. But Tommy, in my entire life, I can't recall an instance where I've seen a football team just lie down and say, we're done. Let's run out the clock. Let's get this thing over. And that is more of a concern to me than anything else, because if you want to make a case for this coach to have to go, this is a coach that was not able to inspire his team. I can tell you this right now. What's the most common thing that a coach says to a football team at halftime when they're getting their butts kicked? Let's come out and win the second half. That's what most coaches say. That's what most coaches would do. And yet this is still a football team that did not play inspired football. You know what I would have done? And I know this sounds maybe high schoolish or maybe small colleges, but I would have called a timeout. I would have huddled my team around me. I would have brought them all together, and I said, this stuff stops now. We're overplaying this little lackadaisical type football. We're going to concentrate. We're going to bear down. We may not win the game, but by golly, we're going to show up, and we're going to play. That's what I would have done. But with that being said, it's very rare. And I don't know, Tommy, do you have an instance somewhere in your viewing pleasure that you've actually seen a professional football team lie down? Because that's the story of this. It's not the fact that a team has turnovers. Everybody's going to have turnovers, and everybody's going to have that night, aren't they? Everybody's going to have that night that things go wrong. Things don't work out the way you expected. That happens. The ball bounces funny. It's an odd-shaped football. And, all I'm saying is that, we don't tune into a national broadcast expecting to see a team lie down like the Chargers did.
And that's indicative of the coach. That's indicative of the way that Brandon Staley has put that team together. Now, I do want to say, they started Easton Stick at quarterback, who I never heard of.
I didn't either.
Up until a few days ago, until Justin Herbert got injured, right? And he looked overmatched. They've dealt with a ton of injuries. The Chargers always do. Their defense was outmatched, outclassed, all of that. to say, I knew they were probably going to lose the game, but there's something to be said for just getting absolutely run out of the building. And that's what happened last night. I mean, it was absolutely embarrassing. And I would argue one of, if not the most embarrassing moments in Chargers franchise history. And there have been several of them. You know, the old saying goes, the Chargers are going to charger, right? They're going to find ways to lose games. That's the way the franchise has always been. But just getting absolutely demolished in that regard on national television, it's embarrassing. And if I'm the ownership of the Chargers, I don't let Brandon Staley fly home with the team. I let him stay in Vegas.
Well,
I make him stay there for the weekend. It's shocking to me. It's 9:11 in the morning on Friday, and Brandon Staley still has his job. About 12 hours after one of the worst blowout losses in franchise history, I really thought I would wake up this morning to the reports in the news that he was going to be out of a job. I remember predicting it a couple of weeks ago on our Friday football picks that the Chargers would lose to the Broncos and Brandon Staley would be fired then. They lost to the Broncos. He wasn't fired. I don't know what else it's going to take for him to lose his job because, look, the bottom line with Brandon Staley is that he came to the Chargers with, he was kind of this like kid wonder defensive guru kind of thing. They gave up 63 points last night. He's a defensive coach and they gave up 63 points. I don't know what more you need to see from the guy that he's not fit to coach this team moving forward.
Well, and it might come today. I mean, it's only 7:00 in the morning. I mean, out in Los Angeles right now, it's only 7:10. So it may happen. I won't be surprised if it happens because
they let a team, Paul, that only scored 3 points a week ago, put up 63 against them last night.
Right. Now,
how does that happen?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure I know because I'm not capable of wrapping my head around the fact that this is professional football and this happens. I'm probably not the go-to guy to ask how this happens, but it did happen and we all saw it. And now Easton Stick, you were kind of giving him a little bit of a rough time. That poor guy.
It's a terrible situation to be in.
He had absolutely no protection last night. It was like the offensive line was just going through the motions. And I mean, there was push in the middle. There was pressure off the edge. I mean, it was all over the place. And even though he was only sacked 3 times, oh my gosh, how many times was he pressured and knocked around and guys all around him and all over him? I mean, was he able to step up into the pocket ever? I mean, ever. I'm not sure I remember. Yeah. Not going to miss.
I'm not sure it happened.
But the point is that, I've never heard of Easton Stick myself. I've never heard of him in college. In fact, right now, I don't even know where'd he go to college? Do you know? I'm not putting you on the spot. Do you know? Because I don't.
Honestly, I couldn't tell you.
I have no idea. So that
okay. North Dakota State. He's in North Dakota State.
Did not know that, but that's interesting to know. I've never heard of him at all, and now he's thrust into an NFL game in Las Vegas with the Chargers. I get it. It was a rough night. He still threw for 257 yards. I mean, it's not like the guy has some ups. He's on an NFL roster, for God's sakes. He must have something. So with that being said, I have a tendency not to put too much on him on his first outing, particularly when you're not getting any help from your team.
It was everything. It was everything for the Chargers. And, our buddy Jason comments on the video stream saying that he could tell that the Chargers just gave up. I would agree with that. You could tell it was lackluster. They've given up on the season. They've given up on their coach. They've given up on the prospects of doing anything with Justin Herbert out for the entire year. So I definitely recognize that. But on the flip side, Antonio Pierce, the interim coach for the Raiders, I think is solidifying his case to be the permanent head coach for the franchise moving forward after that performance last night. But, regardless, the Raiders moved to 6-8 on the season. The Chargers fall to 5-9. Neither one of the teams are making the playoffs, but it was one of the most, if not the most, disappointing and embarrassing performances, I think, from the Los Angeles Chargers in their franchise history. Let's go ahead and take our first break of the hour. On the other side, we're going to connect with Wyatt Thompson. He's the voice of the Kansas State Wildcats. We'll talk to him about the upcoming bowl game for the Wildcats, a little bit about basketball for the Wildcats as well. There's been a lot going on in Manhattan, so we'll get Wyatt's thoughts coming up on the other side of the break. He'll be joining us soon, so stick around. It's Tommy Castor, Paul Savage on Sports Daily. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. It's Sports Daily here on KFH. Tommy Castor, along with Paul Savage, in for Jacob Albracht today, and Jad Chambers producing the program. Working on getting Wyatt Thompson on the IHOP hotline at 869-1240. We've got our Friday football picks coming up next hour. It's going to be full of NFL games, Paul, that we're going to be picking in hour number 2. I was looking at the standings that Jad sent out this morning, and we'll get more into it once we actually get into our Friday football picks. I'm starting to fall behind a little bit again. I had a really good month, and then things have kind of cooled off, and I'm kind of hovering around 500. You and Jacob, it looks like. I'm not ready to concede, but it looks like it's going to be a 2-horse race from here on out.
Yeah, we still got picks to make. I'm so listen. You can go from the outhouse to the penthouse in this thing, or vice versa, so easily. It's just amazing. So don't knock yourself out too much for having a bad week. You know, it can happen to anybody, and it does happen to everybody, doesn't it?
Yeah, so Jacob had a good week, and you and I, Paul, we did not have quite as good of a week, but we'll see how we bounce back. In hour number 2, it looks like we do have Wyatt Thompson. So, Dad, if you want to hit that intro music, and we'll get Wyatt on.
Your new radio home for K-State Athletics, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. It's that time, Sports Daily, getting all the inside information on Kansas State. Let's go now to the voice of the Wildcats, Wyatt Thompson.
All right, joining us on the IHOP hotline, the voice of the Kansas State Wildcats, Wyatt Thompson, here on Sports Daily. Wyatt, good morning. How you doing, man?
Tommy, Paul, good morning. How are you guys? I'm great. Thank you.
Yeah, we're doing great. We've got a lot to get to here with you in the next several minutes. Let's start off first with basketball, Wyatt. I know we talked last week about the turmoil going on around the Kansas State basketball program. And I really think you go back to Saturday's game against LSU, and I was really concerned about that game going into it. Not that LSU is this great program by any means, but just the fact that everything surrounding the program with Naquan Tomlin in that situation, and then the fact that the Wildcats had played in multiple overtime games, I had this worry, Wyatt. The program was going to be exhausted going into the game on Saturday, mentally, emotionally, physically, after everything that they've done and gone through over the last couple of weeks. And it was a fairly resounding win for the Wildcats over LSU on Saturday. What were your major takeaways from that game and knowing everything that had been going on with the program?
Well, let me say, first of all, I thought you said a lot of things there very, very well, because it was a very disturbing week on so many levels, right? I mean, it just was. And I think, if I'm being 1,000% honest with you here, in visiting before the game, during the week, after the game, last night's coach's show, all of that stuff with Coach Tang, I don't know that he could have been much more proud than he was for the guys and fighting through that. This week hasn't necessarily been easy either, but it's different because this is finals week, right? Big difference there. But at the end of the day, what they did is they put all of those distractions behind them. I've said in other interviews, guys, that I felt like from the time I saw the guys for the first time at the airport Friday of last week, when we were getting ready to fly to Baton Rouge, through the time we got there Friday, went through a walkthrough, played the game Saturday, got back Saturday night, I just saw good focus, good chemistry, good effort. I love the way they started the ball game. I love the way they had a 15-point lead and saw it evaporate, but then pushed it back to 15. But there was just so much to like, including Cam Carter playing so well in his own backyard. He was just 35 minutes from his home there in Donaldsonville near Baton Rouge. So I loved every part of it. But I think you're right on task there that, they did overcome a lot. And I know Coach Tang was really excited about that. And I think they're growing and getting better.
They obviously haven't played this week, and you mentioned that it's finals week. Have they had an opportunity to, I don't know if rest is the right word, but maybe reset a little bit? They haven't had an opportunity to play a game, so maybe they've, gotten their legs underneath them a little bit more. Have you noticed that this week at all?
Yeah, absolutely. And Coach is going to meet with the media a little bit later today, probably about 2:00. They practiced this morning about 10. They have had some time. They were off Sunday when we got back. The coaches were out of town for a couple of days recruiting, so there was some lifting and, finals and studies and all of that kind of stuff going on. But compared to a regular basketball week, it was a little bit lighter. And I think probably, frankly, it was a good thing. You mentioned the 3 overtime games, the really good win against Villanova, capping off that stretch, and then, a road trip. I thought they needed a little bit of a breather, and now you've got the game here on Sunday against Nebraska, and then we go to Kansas City next week and play Wichita State, as you fellas know, and then they'll get turned loose for Christmas for a little while. So lots going, but I think they have taken advantage of a little bit of a breather there for sure.
A reset is always great about this time on what's been going on. And part of this is fueled by students. I mean, there's as much on the outside looking in that, with regards to what is kind of fueling all this stuff. There's a lot on the outside. Usually you don't see that to this extent. How is that affecting this team? How how are the outside influences affecting Coach Tang, the staff, the team? Maybe even how are they affecting administration and people that are over the program? What's going on with that? Is that about to be gotten under control, do you think, Wyatt?
Well, it's an interesting couple of questions there, Paul. I think it's probably pretty difficult for me to answer the last part of that administratively. And only I say that because I have not personally talked to President Linton at all. Gene Taylor's a very busy guy. I try pretty hard to stay out of his way most of the time.
Smart.
But I think we all understand what you're asking about there. I get it. How it's been with the team, I really mean this sincerely. Those guys, it was frustrating for them because if you guys know Naquan a little bit, what kind of young guy he is in terms of his personality and big smile and all of those kind of things. He's a pretty popular teammate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they were all under the perception that at some point he was going to come back, and then he didn't. So, there's that on the table. But I really like this team in terms of how they practice, how they prepare, how they handle themselves. I think they are being, really well coached. And when I say that, I mean both on and off the floor by Tang. I really, the longer I'm around him, the more you realize that in his mind, this is a lot more than just what happens on the basketball floor. He's very into these guys individually. We were talking about Cam Carter being there at near home on Saturday. He had like 15 family and friends there, and it was. Coach referenced it last night. There were some points during the game Saturday where those 15 were louder than everybody else in the arena for LSU. So they've kind of grown together as a group, and I think he likes coaching this bunch. So, you got to get to the point too where, and I mean this too, you look at some of the veteran guys on this team that have been around a while, whether it's this program or all programs, and Kaluma and Tyler Perry, David Gasson, there are several guys on this team, Will McNair, that have been around a long, long time, and that helps too.
Let's talk a little bit about Nebraska, Wyatt. You mentioned them a few minutes ago. That's the next matchup for the Wildcats on Sunday inside Bramlage. This is a Nebraska team coached by Fred Hoiberg. They're 8-2 on the season. I think that there was some thought that Hoiberg may be on the hot seat coming into this season, and taking a look at what they've done. They've played one ranked team so far, and that was Creighton just a couple of weeks ago, and they were blown out by 29. Most recently, Nebraska beat Michigan State by 7. What do we know about the Cornhuskers? Is this a team that, they are 8-2, but I'm not sure they've really played a whole lot of people. What do we know about them?
Well, it's an interesting question for me because I harken back to when we saw them last year. I thought K-State, as an example, did a really good job on one of their really fine shooters, and young man from Japan, Keisei Tominaga. I think he had 5 points in the game. And to reference that a little bit farther out, he had 15 in the game against Michigan State the other night in 30 minutes. He's a good player. But I think they've added some guys with all of those returners that have helped them be legitimately better. I think you're right. The question is still how much better, right? It's one thing to get. Hey, Creighton lost the other night at UNLV. That's Kevin Kruger's team, as you guys know. That one surprised me a little bit, but Kalkbrenner is one of the best players in the country. And the night they beat Nebraska, they made 14 threes. They do that, they're going to beat almost anybody. So my point is Nebraska, I think, has improved more than maybe you might know, but do we know how much yet? And I think the answer is no. Some of those new faces that I think have made a difference for them, I would point out Rink Mast, their 5-man, first of all. 4 years at Bradley, 1,000-point scorer, just over 650 rebounds. Kind of I'm going to say an old man kind of game, as the coaches like to say. He's left-handed. He's not a real great athlete, but man, does he know how to play the game. And you better watch when he sets screens because they're legit. I think he's helped them a lot. They've got a couple other kids, and you know, Sam Hoiberg, the coach's son, is playing a little bit more of a role this time. The one guy that really concerns me is Juwan Gary. Juwan had 20 the other night against Michigan State. He played well last year against K-State. He's 6'6", just does a lot of things, maybe more than everybody wanted to know. But I think they are quite a bit better. But I think time is going to tell, can they be an NIT team or an NCAA tournament team after last year, you know, just being okay.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, we were on together, you and I, along with, I believe it was Jacob on that particular show. And I asked you a question about the Big 12. You know something? It's been a couple, 2 or 3 weeks since I've talked to you, Wyatt, and I'd like to ask you again, is there anything going on between this show and the last show that we talked about the Big 12? What's your opinion on the Big 12? Where are we at? Is it still basically, you think, going to be the same teams competing? You know, the Baylors, the KUs, the Texases, the K-States. Where are we at? Is anything changed on the landscape for the Big 12, in your opinion?
The short answer to that is definitely it has. Now, again, you mentioned Kansas. There's Baylor. There's Texas. There's a lot of good teams in this league. But let's be honest, did anybody at this point see Oklahoma being ranked this high and being undefeated at this point?
No, absolutely
I don't
not.
think
No.
No. So, and I'll tell you the truth. They're another team, and this is what most people probably like about the portal. We talk about it and all of that all the time, but they've got a couple pieces from the portal that have really helped them. They've got a couple of young guys who took their licks last year, so to speak, but they are playing very, very well right now. Milos Uzan, who's a really, really quality point guard, and a young wing by the name of Otega Owe. Both of those guys, I think, are really fine players. So they, from my perception, without seeing them live yet, I think they are quite a bit better than anybody thought they might be. So there's that. Still kind of up in the air on TCU a little bit. They're talking about maybe this is Jamie's best team. They haven't necessarily played a great schedule. I'm not trying to bash them in any way, but we're going to find out here in the next few weeks kind of a little bit more about what they're like, but they're really talented. I'd say those two with all of those others that you mentioned. I mean, we know what KU is. Baylor's really gifted. They've got another freshman who's probably a one and doneer. Texas with their pieces is going to be really good. I guess the third team, if I had to add one, would be Iowa State. Just not totally sure yet on. I mean, they've got a 5-star big man, albeit a freshman. But hey, 5-star big men are hard to come by, right?
I think we also have to get. I was just going to mention, I think we also have to get used to having Houston in our conversation as well as a new member of the Big 12, and being up there in the top 5 nationally. So it's a loaded conference, as it always is. Wyatt Thompson, voice of the Wildcats, joining us here on Sports Daily. Wyatt, let's shift gears here a little bit and talk Kansas State football, getting ready for a bowl game not too far in the future, the Pop-Tarts Bowl coming up right after Christmas. And it's going to be a different look Wildcat team playing in that bowl game in Orlando. The big news this week, Kobe Savage transferring out of the program. I don't know about you. That one was shocking to me. I was not expecting that news to come down this week, that Savage would be transferring out of the program. What kind of impact is that? We know that the impact that he has on the field, but you know the program a lot better than we do. I would imagine that's a big loss for Kansas State. Without
a doubt. And like you, I was really, really surprised. And I guess I'll be honest and say the reason why I was so surprised is that if you know Kobe a little bit, he loves the game of football. He's a big hitter. We saw that stuff early on in his career last year until he got hurt at Baylor. He's come back from an ACL injury and probably overcoming really a little bit of a slow start in those first couple of games, but he's played really well. He probably hasn't tackled this year as well as he did last, but he's a rock solid player. What I'm basically hearing is and this is kind of what the portal is. I think he's had, some opportunities there with some financial things that would help him a bunch. And I think that's again, no necessarily major inside information here, but I think that's kind of driving this. And so, yeah, I was definitely surprised by it.
When you look at the overall bowl situation, this is a bowl that, the old days of Wyatt Thompson and Paul Savage sitting down and watching the Liberty Bowl and the Orange Bowl and the, the Cotton Bowl. You know where I'm going with this, don't you, Wyatt? You know where I'm going with.
Oh, sure.
Sometimes I have a hard time figuring out, okay, I got a bowl I've never heard of. How does this rank in the world of bowls? Would you tell me, how does this bowl that the Wildcats are going to, how does this rank in the world of bowls? Because I haven't figured it out yet.
Well, there's a couple of angles that you could go to here.
Please.
And I'm sure you guys are well aware of this, that K-State has never played a bowl game in Florida, and that's about to change. They've also never played a bowl game where if they win the game, they can eat part of the mascot, I'm told. And that should be a very story. I'm hoping they get that opportunity. That would be kind of cool for us to report on, right? Don't you think?
Yes, it would.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit different. And then the Pop-Tarts thing, I've been asked in a ton of interviews, what is my favorite Pop-Tart?
Oh, why?
And I'm not trying to be funny when I say this. I say strawberry, which is the truth. But I bet I was 17 or 18 years old the last time I had a Pop-Tart. So suffice it to say, that's been a while.
That's going to change. I got a feeling that's going to change. Cool, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. It probably, it could even be, let's see, I get in there on Christmas Eve at about 4. So yeah, maybe at 4:30 next on Christmas Eve. What do you think?
Yeah. You got to
have one then. So
I'm not sure there's a better Christmas Eve dinner than a bunch of Pop-Tarts in Orlando.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, there you go.
Let's talk.
I didn't realize they had so many kinds. Did you guys?
Oh, there are a ton.
No, I had no idea. No idea.
Yeah.
I would say if I'm ranking my definitive flavors of Pop-Tarts, strawberry's pretty good. I would maybe go s'mores at number 2, and then brown sugar cinnamon that's got to be number 1. Like that's the Tom Brady of Pop-Tarts in my opinion.
Yeah. One I saw the other day, I don't even remember who it was that had a box of them. Are the boxes like 4 or 8, or do you know that? I don't remember that exactly, but anyway, this guy had like it was a banana bread Pop-Tart. I'm going, wow, you're covering it from A to Z if you're doing those kind of things. But like you though, I've heard a lot of the cinnamon stuff. People love those, love it.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And, there's a debate. By the way, I just want to mention, and we're getting way off topic here, but there's a debate about whether or not Pop-Tarts should be toasted or if you can just eat them, out of the box. And I mean, I think it's okay to eat them out of the box, but if you're not toasting them, you're missing out.
Well, I got
really?
Yeah. Hey, and the number in a box is 8. That's coming from Jad Chambers, our producer. He seems to know a lot. He seems to know his way around a Pop-Tart. He's
our Pop-Tart authority, I would say.
Always hang around somebody that knows what's going on, right?
That's right. But anyway, it's good to be in a bowl game. Obviously, it's hard to rank some of these bowl games at this point. By the way, there's so many of them. I mean, there was a day, Wyatt, I know you remember, 15, 20 bowl games, and that was it. I mean, it was pretty short list, and now the list goes on, and we've literally got teams that I did not know were eligible for bowl games playing in bowl games, but that's okay. But this is a good bowl. The closer to the New Year's you get, I guess, is the way you look at a bowl and say, how good is this bowl? How big is this bowl? What is the credits, the bona fides on this bowl? Closer you get to New Year's Day, I'm assuming that means it's a better bowl. Is that a safe assumption, Wyatt?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And you know what? As we talk about that, I have to kind of throw this out here because I really do wonder what the bowl situation will be like or how much will this change, because change is coming, right? I mean, we're going from 4 playoff teams this year to 12 next.
Oh,
At some level, it's going to have some type of change.
Yes.
I've said in some interviews that I don't even know exactly. Let's say, like last year when K-State was Big 12 champs, they would have been one of the 12. And the projection was they would play Tennessee. And that would have been like the Saturday after the Big 12 championship game. So whatever, that would have been the 9th or 10th of December. Could they still play in a bowl game if they lost? Does anybody know that? Those are the kind of things that I think about, that because I don't know that, we know exactly how the bowl season will roll with 12 as opposed to 4.
One more bowl question for you, Wyatt, as we look ahead to the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Obviously, there's been a significant amount of turnover in this program at the quarterback position and then elsewhere. We also got the announcement that Ben Sinnott is declaring for the NFL draft and will skip the bowl game. And, of course, Kobe Savage, Will Lee, Nate Matlack. There are others that have transferred out of the program. If you are right, if you're Chris Kleiman and you are preparing for this bowl game, what do you want to see from your team? Because I would imagine, it's hard to game plan this, and it's hard to, figure out exactly how you're going to put a team on the field and what that's going to look like when you've got, so many players that are not going to be playing in the bowl game. Is this for Chris Kleiman? Is it a more important look at what the future can be on the program, or what's his mindset going into this bowl game?
Well, I love the question, and I think the answer is a couple of things, if I'm being honest, because I know how Coach thinks, or I think I have a pretty good feel on how he thinks about things, and I think for him, he's going to look at it on one hand. It's going to be the finishing point of the career of a Cooper Beebe and a KT Leviston and, Christian Duffy and all of those other seniors that have meant so much to this program. Because, think about it, those guys have been here as long as he has, right? And in a couple of cases longer, by a year. So that will be I think part of the answer, and probably a little bit emotional for Coach on that these guys have meant a lot to him. I really mean that sincerely. But yeah, it's hard not to think that this is just basically a lead into what K-State is going to be all about when we get to 2024. Part of that is Avery Johnson, and a large part of it, wouldn't you say? Would you agree with that? I think we've all been waiting for that time, and here we are with it now. So it starts there, but it's more than, again, I'm going to say Avery's a monster part of it, but for the guys like Jace Brown, guys like Garrett Oakley and Braden Lofton, oh boy, I could probably go. There's several other. I think we may see some kids this bowl season that haven't necessarily been a big part of the 23 team, but will be a big part of the 24 team. Maybe that's the right way to say it, without trying to name all of the guys. We can talk about that if you want to, but there's so many of them that I think will get an opportunity here, even if it's a maybe 10 to 15 play opportunity as opposed to just special teams. And I'm talking about guys like, maybe you've heard of these names, maybe you haven't, but a guy like Kenigel Thomas, who's a corner in our program that the coaches really are excited about. We have another corner in our program, Tyler Nellam, who was a transfer from SEMO and was injured early and really wasn't a factor this year. He's healthy now. That's the interesting part of bowl season, or used to be for me. Now it's more of a nightmare of trying to get right of who's going to be available and who's not. But hey,
well, I know
we all are doing that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that as next week gets into full swing, you'll be prepping, and I know you already are getting ready for that bowl game. And so next week we'll make sure to talk a little bit more in depth about the bowl and what what players will be able to keep an eye on and take a look for. In the meantime, Wyatt, you guys have Nebraska on Sunday, basketball inside Bramlage. Pregame begins at 1:00, tip off at 2. And so we'll be looking forward to that. Anything special or big on the broadcast on Sunday that we can be looking forward to?
Probably pretty standard for the most part, but
Okay.
I say this all the time with Coach Tang. You never know exactly what you're going to get when you sit down and visit with him. So try to, even if you're coming to the game, as you're coming in, try to catch that and then come in. I'm just being honest, guys. I really have enjoyed visiting with him this season. It's so different than last year. And just the way he speaks about the program, as I said before, on and off the floor. pretty entertaining stuff for me. So I'm going to promote that as much as I possibly can. He's pretty popular around here. Have you heard that?
I've gotten an indication of that a little bit. That's going to be Sunday. Of course, you'll be able to hear all of it right here on KFH with Wyatt on the call. Pregame begins at 1, tip-off at 2. Wyatt, as always, we appreciate your time, and of course, we'll talk to you next week.
You guys are awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
All right, there goes Wyatt Thompson, voice of the Wildcats. Always appreciate his time here on Sports Daily. If you missed any of that, of course, you can always go to the Odyssey app and listen to it, and we will have that for you up there for absolutely free. Let's take another time out. When we come back, we're going to get ready for our Friday football picks. That will be as we kick off hour number 2. It's on the way for you on KFH.
Age.
All right, welcome back. Our thanks to the voice of the Kansas State Wildcats, Wyatt Thompson, for joining us in the previous segment. If you missed any of it, you can always go back and listen to it on the free Odyssey app. A very short segment here before we get into hour number 2 and our Friday football picks. So let's do a giveaway on the IHOP hotline. Jad will give away a pair of tickets to the Turnpike Troubadours with Trampled by Turtles and the Red Clay Strays at Intrust Bank Arena on May 3rd at 7 o'clock. Let's take caller number 2 on the IHOP hotline, 869-1240 right now. You'll get a pair of tickets to Turnpike Troubadours. It's going to be a great show, and we'll do that right now for caller number 2. On the other side, our Friday football picks. We will do that coming up in hour number 2 on Sports Daily. Stick around.
Laugh Out Loud Mornings with Bob and Tom on 97.5 and 1240 KFH, Wichita's most listened to sports radio. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Wonka is here, and to celebrate, IHOP's teaming up with the brilliant inventor himself to create a brand new magical Wonka menu. Try magnificently mouth-watering items like Wonka's perfectly purple pancakes, Daydream berry biscuits, the fantastical Wonka burger, dreamy lemonade, and of course, hover chalk pancake tacos. Come be part of the magic and try the new Wonka menu for a limited time at an IHOP near you. And kids eat free from 4 to 10 p.m. See Wonka only in theaters December 15th. One free kids entree per full price adult entree. Restrictions apply.
Patterson Legal is the way to go. Call 550-0000.
Jay-Z might be known for his chart-topping hip-hop singles, but his investments in branding, entertainment, and fine art propelled him to billionaire status. That's right, his investments in fine art. Now, this potentially lucrative asset class is available to everyday investors like you with Masterworks. Masterworks allows anyone to invest in blue-chip artworks, just like billionaires and celebrities. With over 810,000 registered users and tens of millions in net proceeds paid out, some of Masterworks' new offerings have even sold out in minutes. Luckily, listeners can now skip the wait list at masterworks.com, promo code SATURN. That's masterworks.com, promo code SATURN. Past performance is not indicative of future returns. Investing involves risk. Important Regulation A disclosures and aggregate advisory performance at masterworks.com.
This is Evan Lease with David Lease Plumbing, wishing you a joyous and blessed Christmas season. Whether your water heater begins to leak when family arrives in town, your garbage disposal stops working when cleaning the refrigerator of leftovers, or your child decided to flush a brand new toy down your toilet, we're happy to help. Give David Lease Plumbing a call at 945-0117 to schedule a service call. Merry Christmas from our family to yours. May your homes be filled with warmth, laughter, and the true meaning of Christmas.
Hey, Shocker fans! Wichita State men's basketball welcomes back an old Missouri Valley foe on Saturday, December 16th at 6 p.m. when they battle the Southern Illinois Salukis. The first 2,500 fans will receive a Fear the Wheat rally towel to white out Charles Koch Arena. And listen to this offer for all college students. Present your college ID at the Shocker ticket office and receive free admission to the game. Get your tickets for this nostalgic matchup now at GoShockers.com/tickets or call 316-978-FANS.
I got a letter from Santa?
Dear Renee, I am looking forward to visiting your house again Christmas Eve. I was wondering if you could leave me another one of those delicious Oreo candy cane shakes again. Rudolph thinks the candy cane sprinkles are gourmet reindeer food. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Spangles should make this their new holiday dessert.
Nothing says Christmas like candy canes and cookies. Spangle's new Oreo candy cane shake.
Yes, it's Santa approved. Oh, ho, 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 ho. It's a holiday deal from Spangles.
Come into Spangles for our gift card deal. Pick up yours today. Now through December 24th, purchase a $50 Spangles gift card and get a $20 Spangles gift card for free. That's right, a free $20 gift card for every $50 card you buy. December 8th through the 24th. Spangles, helping your holiday dollars go farther.
Happy holidays. Stop by Spangles today.
Save time, trouble, and frustration when you call Mr. Electric. Mr. Electric provides expert receptacle repair, ceiling fan installation, kitchen lighting, electrical panel upgrades, home surge protection, and more. Experience unmatched professional service and safety with upfront pricing, call-ahead scheduling, and 24/7 emergency electrical services. Save the headache with Mr. Electric. Residential or commercial, Mr. Electric has the power to make things better. Call now, 316-361-5200, online at MrElectricWichita.com.
This is Mark Calvin, site director at the Hayesville Learning Cafe, encouraging any adult who needs a high school diploma, learn English, or gain citizenship to enroll at 315 North Main Street in Hayesville. We offer child supervision on campus. Call us at 789-8380, and we're glad Odyssey serves.
Brought to you by South Central Kansas Problem Gambling Task Force. The next Chiefs game is Sunday at noon.
The KFH Studios, powered by Devon James Injury Lawyers. Call 888-8888. That's 888-8888.
College men's basketball tomorrow. Wichita State back home on campus at Koch Arena hosting Southern Illinois, an old conference rival. Non-conference home finale for the Shockers, who have beaten the Salukis 9 times in a row. Salukis last won a game in Wichita 13 years ago. The Salukis have the nation's leading scorer, senior guard Xavier Johnson, coming into this one. The Shockers and the Salukis, live coverage for Mike Kennedy and Dave Dahl, begins at 5 p.m. tomorrow. The game will tip off at 6 p.m. tomorrow evening. Listen to the Shockers live on 103.7 KEYN. The Shock's about a 1-point favorite. The Kansas State men's basketball team home Sunday hosting Nebraska. Live coverage of K-State men's basketball at 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon right here on KFH. Hey, I'm going to be at the Taco Bell drive-thru at Harry and Webb during the 5 p.m. hour today. One lucky drive-thru customer gets $124 in free Christmas cash. See you at the Taco Bell at Harry and Webb, 5 p.m. hour. I'm Ted the Sports Head.
Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor. This is Sports Daily on Wichita's #1 sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Hey, sports bettors, ready for some picks destined to fail? It's time to hear what the Sports Daily staff thinks of the weekend games.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It's hour number 2 on Sports Daily on this Friday edition of the program. I'm Tommy Castor, joined by Paul Savage, and for Jacob Albracht today. Jad Chambers producing the program. The IHOP hotline is open the rest of the way at 869-1240. Speaking of that IHOP hotline, congratulations to Joe. He picks up the Turnpike Troop tickets for that show coming up at Intrust Bank Arena in the month. Hey, we've got our Friday football picks, and, Paul, we talked about it for a couple of moments in the last hour. It was not a great week for me, and it was not a great week for you. 4-5-1 for both of us, and Jacob was 6-3-1. So now Jacob has a lead over both of us. He's got a 3-game lead over you. He's got an 8-game lead over me, and we're running out of weeks to try to catch up.
But it's doable.
It is.
Yes.
We don't have many weeks left, though. That's the problem.
But that's it. But it's still doable. I mean, even on the last week that when we do this, between 10 picks, you go 9-1 or 1-9, for instance. Which, by the way, we've seen somebody even do worse, haven't we? I think we have. But anyway, with that being said,
I was hoping you wouldn't bring that up. But yes.
But anyway, anything can happen. It is picking football winners. That's hard to do. So we're hanging in there. We're going to fight. We're not quitting like the Chargers.
I guess that even if I end up, coming in dead last this year, at least I can hang my hat on the fact that I went 0-10 in 1 week.
Man.
And that might be even harder to do than going 10-0.
I've never been so proud of you in my life.
I've never really come back from that. That hurt.
It did.
That hurt me deep inside to make that happen. So let's hope that doesn't happen again this week. I believe next week we'll get back to picking some college games because bowl season will be right around the corner. But this week it's all NFL, 10 NFL games. We're going to pick them against the spread. Jad, let's hit the music and let's get into our Friday football picks for the weekend. I've got Jacob's picks as well. So we'll make sure to get his logged also. Let's start with the Saturday games. There's a triple header in the NFL tomorrow. And so we're going to start with those games. The very first one, the Bengals travel on the road to take on the Vikings. The Vikings are traveling to Cincinnati. So the Bengals are the home team. The Bengals are 3.5 home favorites. Paul, what do you think about this one? The Vikings, they were not good a week ago. They haven't been good in the last couple of weeks. Can they bounce back, or do the Bengals have too much firepower?
Can you name all the quarterbacks that have played in that position for the Vikings? Because I don't think I can. With that being said, that tells you a lot about the stature of this team, who they are, what they are. and that is a bit of a confused package as to who's the best quarterback. I'm going to take the Bengals because this seems to be a fairly easy pick, only giving 3.5. It's a little surprising to me. I thought it would be more like 5.5, but I'm going to take the Bengals. This is a really easy pick for me.
Yeah, so the quarterback situation with Minnesota has not been good. As soon as Kirk Cousins went down with that injury, Josh Dobbs, he stepped in and they traded for him, and he played really well the first couple of weeks,
Yes,
and he's
he
not
did.
played well.
That's right.
To the point to where Kevin O'Connell has made a quarterback change. And so it looks like Nick Mullins for the Vikings, Jaron Hall will be the backup, and Josh Dobbs will be the third string emergency quarterback. So it's all over the place at quarterback for the Vikings. Look, Jacob thinks the Bengals as well. I could take an island here, I guess, if I wanted to, but I don't think I'm going to. I think let's make it a clean sweep, and we'll say all three of us taking the Bengals.
Smart.
And laying the 3.5. Yeah,
Smart.
just Jake Browning, I think, is playing his way into a starter job in the NFL next season. I think that continues tomorrow. So we'll all take the Bengals at minus 3.5. Our next game, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're on the road taking on the Colts. It looks like Mitch Trubisky will start again for the Steelers. Gardner Minshew at quarterback for the Colts. The Steelers are 1.5 road dogs. What do you like here, Paul?
Well, something I don't really like either one of these teams. I mean, it's a 1.5 point spread. I've got to pick one of them, though. I was pretty bullish on the Colts at the start of the year. They've hurt me. I've made some dumb picks. I've lost ground because of the Colts. And for that reason, I'm switching around a little bit because I liked the Colts from a year or two ago with Hard Knocks. I felt like I got to know them. I got to know them fairly well. I enjoyed the team. I enjoyed Hard Knocks that year, but I can't take them. I'm going to go ahead and go with the Steelers. And I just think that's the better option off of two not very good options.
So I watched the Steelers game, at least a portion of it last week, and Mitch Trubisky at quarterback. And honest to God, I watched him play, and I kept thinking to myself, how in the world was this guy at one time a Pro Bowler? Like, I couldn't understand it. He was so bad. He was so bad. And I don't understand how at one point he was a Pro Bowl candidate. Look, the Steelers are not good. I would imagine they're going to finish under 500 for the first time in the Mike Tomlin era in Pittsburgh. I know they're dealing with the Kenny Pickett injury. At one point, they looked to be a playoff team. I don't see it. I know the Colts have dealt with their own issues, and Jonathan Taylor is still hurt and all of that. I'm going to take the Colts. I'll lay the 1.5. It's in Indianapolis. I'm going to take Indy to win the game and to win by more than 1.5. And actually, that's an island, Paul, because Jacob is with you. He's taking the Steelers as well. So I will take that Colts island for the game. I think that's a pretty good one to take. The next game that we're going to look at, I'm incredibly excited to hear what you think about this game, because we are talking about your Detroit Lions, who you love so much, taking on your Denver Broncos, who you love so much. I don't know how you're going to pick this game, Paul. The Broncos are headed to Detroit. The Lions are 4.5 point home favorites. I know you love both of these teams. Which way are you going to go?
Well, something, this is really hard for me because I can make a case to pick both. You want to be real truthful, I can make a case to pick either one of these teams. 4.5 points, that seems to be a lot of points. The Lions giving the Broncos 4.5. Let me ask you a question, Tommy. Broncos make the playoffs? Because I think they do. I think they're playing well enough. I think they do. What do you think?
They're trending up. They're a lot better team now than they were at the very beginning of the season.
So
I wouldn't say it's out of the question that they can sneak into one of the final wild card spots.
Okay, and I'm kind of with you on that. That's kind of where I am as well. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and take the Broncos, and I'll tell you why. The 4.5 points swings it for me. The 4.5 points is definitely the only factor that I will take, because I think both of these teams are capable of winning this game. Both these teams are capable of covering the point spread. So it's a pick 'em for me. And I'm going to go ahead and take the Broncos just because it's my number 3 team in the entire NFL. Lions being probably my number 4 team at this point, but I'm going to take the Broncos.
Do you remember how trendy of a pick the Lions were at the very beginning of the season?
I know. They were.
Like they were so trendy. They were so popular. And you know what? Look, their record is good.
It is.
Their record is good. They're 9-4?
Right.
But they have had a couple of stinkers. Like you go back to Thanksgiving when they just got blown out against the Packers. Last week was not good for Detroit. It's something about this team playing away from home, and not only playing away from home, but when they play outdoors, it doesn't really work for them. This game is back in Detroit. The Lions have a really good chance to get back on track. But as I mentioned, the Broncos are trending upward. It's 4.5. Russell Wilson is playing better. Things are starting to come along for Denver. I think I'm going to join you, Paul. I'm going to take the Broncos, and I'll take the 4.5. That's actually going to give Jacob an island with the Lions. That's not a bad island.
Not a bad island.
A home team, first in their division. They've looked really good at times. So, that's a really good island for Jacob. So he will get that Lions -4.5 line at home all by himself. Our very next game, the New York Jets on the road going down to Miami to take on the Dolphins. This is the biggest spread of the weekend that we are going to pick. Miami is a 9.5-point home favorite against Zach Wilson, who, by the way, was the AFC Offensive Player of the Week a week ago, which is just insane to me. But the Jets are 9.5-point road dogs. What do you like here, Paul?
You know something? This is another interesting game because that point spread makes it really interesting. I'm going to ask you one question. Is Aaron Rodgers playing for the Jets this weekend?
No.
That kind of says it all, doesn't it? Zach Wilson, although he seems to be coming on and starting to figure it out, he got the accolades from the last week or so. I get it, all that, 9.5 points. But dang, the Miami Dolphins run so well. Man, they are fun to watch. They run well. They're the fastest team in the NFL from top to bottom. They do so many things, and a good quarterback. 9.5 with the Jets.
That's a big number, Paul.
It's a big
number. Big number.
I'm still going to take Miami. I'm going to go ahead and give 9.5 points.
Okay. Like I mentioned, that was the biggest spread of the weekend that we are picking. You know what? The argument all season long has been that the Dolphins have not beaten anybody. They've not beaten anybody. That's the argument. Well, they're playing a Jets team that I think you can maybe put on that same
list.
realm
Sure.
as not really playing anybody, right?
No question.
It's a big number. I agree with you, Paul. I think the Dolphins will win, and they'll win big at home. I'm going to lay the 9.5 as well and take Miami. I'm a believer in them. I think that they are a team that could absolutely represent the AFC in the Super Bowl.
Good.
Jacob doesn't believe that. He's not on that bandwagon. He doesn't think the Dolphins are all that good. And so he's going to get another island here. He's picking the Jets, and he's going to take the 9.5. I guess he's hoping that Zach Wilson catches lightning in a bottle again. I just don't see that happening. I'm going to take the Dolphins -9.5, and we will give Jacob another island. That's two islands in a row for him. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think they're both pretty good. I mean, although the Jets, I think the number's a big number, but I still don't think it's enough. I'm not sure who these Jets are, but I like his island with the Lions. That I do like. That's a good island. Jets, not so much.
Okay, let's move on to our next game here. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to Lambeau to take on the Packers. The Packers had kind of a letdown game a week ago after beating the Chiefs. They're kind of an up and down team, but the Bucs, you know what? They're still in the hunt to win their division in the NFC. That being said, though, Tampa Bay is 3.5-point road underdogs in Green Bay. What do you like here?
Well, this is going to be one of those games where it's going to be cold. It's going to be outdoors. It's going to, for all we know, it'll be snowing like the Dickens. We don't know how the weather will be, but it'll be cold. I like that as a factor. That may be 2 points out of the 3.5 points that they're giving. I'm going to go ahead and take the Packers. They've shown that they're starting to play, they're starting to figure this thing out, and I'm going to go ahead and take the Packers. I'm not confident in the Bucs. I know they're still in the running for a wild card, but I don't know. I know more about the Packers than I do the Bucs. I'm going to go ahead and take the Packers and give the 3.5. That's probably dumb on my part, but that's what I'm going to do.
It was really, really disappointing to see the way the Packers had their letdown a week ago. I mean, because remember that Sunday night prime beat Kansas City? They looked like, they were a team on the come up and on the rise and all of that. And then they just kind of laid an egg a week ago. And it's a team that I know they're coming into their own. A lot of young stars. Jordan Love coming into his own. But you know what? Everybody is forgetting about the NFC South. Will the team from the NFC South play in the Super Bowl? No, probably not. I mean, I think it's a 3-team race right now between the Niners, the Eagles, and the Cowboys. I don't think the Lions are in that mix, and I don't think any team from the NFC South is in that mix as well.
I'm with you.
But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, everybody wrote them off this year, I think, because they were bringing in Baker Mayfield. And how do you replace Tom Brady with Baker Mayfield? And you know what? Baker has done okay. He's not a great quarterback. He's not an MVP type quarterback, but he's been okay. And I don't understand all the Baker Mayfield hate. They're going on the road. I'm going to take Tampa Bay. I'm going to take the 3.5. I think that they can cover that on the road at Lambeau, because I was, like I said, really disappointed in the way that the Packers played a week ago. So I'm going to take Tampa Bay. I'll take the 3.5. Jacob will join me and also take the Bucks. So Paul, you get an island.
I like that
with the home team, the Green Bay Packers.
No problem. I like that. I always like to think of it in these terms too. Palm trees to a foot of snow. There you go. How do you like that? Sometimes teams handle that well. Sometimes they don't. But think of the bikinis and the palm trees that they're leaving behind for Lambeau.
You're distracting me by talking about bikini. Focus on the picks that we have coming up.
Okay.
And our next game, the Houston Texans traveling to Tennessee to take on a Titans team that, man, they had quite an offensive output a week ago.
Right.
The Texans are 3-point road dogs at Tennessee. What do you think?
I'm so glad I get to start on this one, because I'm making a selection based upon one thing. And you know how I sometimes get when I make selections based on, whatever it might be. But where did the Titans move from? Well, it was Houston. The Titans were at one point the Houston Oilers. Remember? I know you remember that. Of course, I know you know that. The Texans now reside in what city? Well, they reside in Houston. And now you've got the Texans and the Titans playing. And you know what I like? Texans are going with the Titans are going with the throwbacks. And I kind of like that. The old oil well on the side of the helmet.
Yeah.
And I love that. The powder blue uniforms. Remember those? Remember the powder blue uniform with that helmet? Classic helmet. I mean, I always thought that was one of the best helmet decals in the entire world of football. So
Please tell me you're not picking a game based on the uniforms they're wearing.
I'm picking a game based on not just uniforms, throwback uniforms. I'm taking the Texans.
You're taking the Texans or the Titans?
I'm taking the Titans.
Titans are the ones wearing.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm taking the Titans. That's what I meant. I'm taking the Titans.
Taking the Titans and laying the 3.
I'm laying the 3.
Okay. A lot of people are off the Texans bandwagon all of a sudden. And I know a lot of that is injury based. Tank Dell, the exciting young player, broke his leg and he's out for the rest of the year. That was, too bad. CJ Stroud left the game a week ago against the Jets with a concussion. I think the question is whether or not he's going to be cleared in time, or will Davis Mills start at quarterback for the Texans? We don't know that quite yet. That's probably where this line is living right now because of the uncertainty around who's starting at quarterback. I still like the Texans. I know the Titans had a big-time offensive output behind Will Levis a week ago. But, man, I think the Texans, they should be a playoff team. I really believe that, a wild card team. If CJ Stroud can go, I know he didn't have a good game a week ago, even before the injury, but he was playing a really good Jets defense. I don't know. I mean, I get Mike Vrabel. I understand all of that. I think I'm going to take the Texans, and I'll take the 3 points. And Jacob is with me as well. So, Paul, you're going to get another island here with the Titans laying the 3 points.
Throwback uniform island. I love it. Jad, thumbs up, thumbs down. Thumbs up from Jad. Man, I'm on a roll now.
Okay.
I'm on a roll.
Look, I got to give you some props because you're the that would pick a game based on the uniforms the team is wearing. So hats off to you. You are who you are. You're authentic. You're committed to it, which I always appreciate.
Thank you.
All right. Our next game, we're going to get into some big time matchups here. Our final games that we're picking here on the program. The Bills are at home taking on the Cowboys. The Bills are 2-point home favorites. You know, the Cowboys they've done everything that we've asked them to do. They've looked really good in the last few weeks. The Bills are still a little bit desperate, but they did beat the Chiefs a week ago. What do you think? Do you like the Bills at home? Do you think the Cowboys can cover?
Well, let me ask you this, Tommy. How big a letdown is it to come off of a game against a nationally broadcast game, evening game, against the Kansas City Chiefs that you won, and you won at the last moment? You won with you've got to be mentally tired. I think you're going to be exhausted. I think it's going to be a letdown game. I don't think the Bills play very well. I think the Cowboys, they're going to get some pressure on the quarterback. They're going to do the things that they do. That's a darn good defense for the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think that this game is near as close as the 2 points indicates. I'm taking the Cowboys. They could easily win this game by double digits. I'm taking the Cowboys.
No.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yes.
That's ridiculous. I'm gonna disagree with you big time on that. I don't think that the Bills coming off of the game against Kansas City will have a letdown at all. I think all it did was energize them. I think it galvanized them. I think it showed them that they're not out of the playoff hunt at all. If they had lost that game to Kansas City, well, yeah, then at what point, do you really care moving forward playing the Cowboys? You know, kind of out of the playoff picture, but they're right back in it right now. And they're still extreme. Josh Allen has to limit the turnovers. If he can limit the turnovers, I think there's a good chance the Bills can win the game and cover that too. I'm going to take Buffalo. I'm going to lay the 2 points. I'm going to get an island here because Jacob's with you. He's taking the Cowboys. Both you and him are taking the Cowboys, and you're taking the 2 points. I'm going to lay the Bills. I'm going to take the Bills and lay the 2. I just think that win against Kansas City, that's going to propel them, to win on Sunday against Dallas. I really do.
Well, I think that's a good island to be on, but I'll tell you what, mentally, I don't like the way it shapes up for the Bills. I'm just saying.
Well, time will tell on that. Let's go to our next game. This is the Sunday night game. Baltimore, the Ravens on the road at Jacksonville. The Ravens are 3.5-point road favorites at Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence battled through that ankle injury a week ago, Paul. It looks like he's going to be good to go this weekend. The Ravens, they're traveling to Jacksonville, and, I don't understand it. Jacob's not a Baltimore believer. Are you? Do you think Baltimore can win this game and cover the 3.5?
Yes, I do. Not only can they, and they could win it by, a lot more than that. I'm going to take Baltimore because the first of the year, I wasn't quite the believer in them that I was. I think they're a better football team than I gave them credit for. Although quarterback-wise, the Jags are going to be fine. Trevor Lawrence is back. I don't know how full speed, and Jacob used the term the other day. He's a Gumby quarterback. And I think there's, I didn't even know what that meant a few years ago until I started doing radio with Jacob, but he's got a good point. It's a kid that bounces back, is sort of rubbery, and can come back from these kind of things. This is an injury that would probably keep a lot of quarterbacks out. But how good will he be? How good is he capable of being when he's flushed out of the pocket and that kind of thing? We'll find out. I think he's probably pretty good, but I'm going to go ahead and take the Ravens. And more of anything, it's a gut because, listen, I can also make a case why I should take the Jags. But I'm going to go ahead and take the Ravens.
Yeah, look, I feel like the Ravens are the best team in the AFC. Bottom line, they're the best team in the AFC. I'm going to take Baltimore. I'm going to join you. I'm going to lay the 3.5. I think that they make a statement this weekend. Jacob agrees with us, even though he's not a Ravens believer. It's a clean sweep. Ravens minus 3.5. All right, the Monday night game. Philadelphia Eagles on the road to Seattle, going to the West Coast to take on the Seahawks. The Seahawks are 3-point home dogs. What do you like?
I like the Eagles. Somewhere along the line, they're going to bounce back. Listen, Tommy, are the Eagles a good football team? Yes or no?
Sure
Absolutely. They are. Have they played well in the last few weeks? No, they've not played well. But the Eagles are a good football team. They'll get it back together. This is a team that's going to have some pride. My gosh, they were in the Super Bowl last year. I'm going to take the Eagles. I think this 3 points is covered and covered easily, and I'm taking the Eagles.
The Seahawks are on a downward spiral right now.
They
lost several in a row.
Yes.
Geno Smith has not been healthy. That's going to play a big role in that as well. Even though the Eagles are on the road, I like them to cover that 3. I thought it would be a little bit of a higher number, to be honest with you. I'm going to take Philly. I'll lay the 3 points. Jacob is with us. He's going to do the same thing. All right, last but not least, before we take a break, let's look at the Chiefs game. It's a noon game at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough. The Chiefs travel to take on the Patriots, and the Chiefs are 8-point road favorites. What do you think here, Paul?
Well, the Pats are not good. It's a team in turmoil. It's a coaching staff in turmoil. It's an ownership, if you want to know the truth. It's an ownership in turmoil that's not sure what it needs to do to right the ship. Pats are a mess. Chiefs are semi a mess. I'm going to go ahead and take the Chiefs just because I think they're better. Bill Belichick's probably coaching in his last few games. At least that's what it sounds like. Don't know for sure, but it's what it sounds like. I'm going to go ahead and take the Chiefs in spite of the receiver problems, all the gaffes that the receivers have made, including that offside. And by the way, that was a penalty. I don't like the fact that the NFL rules.
For sure.
I don't like the fact that the NFL rules let that play go. It should be whistled. When the ball is snapped, blow the whistle. Don't let the play go. But with that being said, I'm going to take the Chiefs because the Pats are in so much turmoil. No quarterback. It seems like a team that has quit trying. I'm going to go ahead and take the Chiefs. This is another one of those games where I famously predict the number will be covered by halftime.
Jacob agrees with you. He's taking the Chiefs. He's laying the 8 points. I want to be very clear. I think the Chiefs win this game because the Pats are not good. But Bill Belichick is going to find some ways to scheme up limiting Kansas City. That's what he's done for years.
All right.
I got to get back in this race a little bit. I'm going to take an island here.
You got to roll.
I'm going to take the Pats. I'm going to roll the dice. I'm going to take the Pats.
I don't blame you.
+8. I do think that Kansas City will win the game. I want to be clear about that, but I do think the Pats can cover that number of 8. Those are our Friday football picks. We will see what happens and how it all shakes out this weekend in the NFL. When we come back on the other side, we're going to talk more about the Chiefs and Pats. We're going to dive into a little bit more, get Paul's thoughts on what it's going to take for Kansas City to bounce back this weekend, and a whole lot more. It's on the way coming up for you on Sports Daily. Hang on.
Your phone call is welcome. 869-1240. Sports Daily on 97.5 and 1240 KFH. Wichita's #1 sports radio.
Make Hog Wild the centerpiece of your holiday meal. Hog Wild slow smokes boneless hams and whole turkeys to perfection, so you have no stress, no mess, and the perfect holiday meal. Pre-order Hog Wild's 4-pound boneless ham for $50, and a 12-pound whole smoked turkey is also $50. A complete holiday meal that feeds approximately 8 to 10 includes your choice of a boneless ham or a whole slow-smoked turkey, mashed potatoes and gravy, stuffing, green beans or corn, and a dozen rolls, all for just $125. Pre-order online at GoHogWild.com soon, as quantities are limited. All weights are approximate before cooking. Hog Wild Pit Barbecue, 6 locations in Wichita, also in Derby, El Dorado, Hutchinson, and Salina.
Go Hog Wild Pit Barbecue. Hog Wild, get some for you. But don't be late, we close at 8.
Menards is celebrating Ryan Blaney's NASCAR championship with 12% off everything. Homeworks creates thoughtfully designed faucets and bath fans that will align perfectly with your style. Get a modern matte black bathroom faucet from Homeworks. It features an LED light activated by water flow. On sale for $47.95 after 12% off. Hurry in before Christmas Day. Savings are mailing rebate. Some exclusions apply. Sorry, no price adjustments. See store for details.
When people have a craving to explore new and traditional Asian cuisines, they head to P.F. Chang's, where scratch-made dishes come from the 2,000-year-old tradition of wok cooking. P.F. Chang's wanted to explore new possibilities for their website. They turned to AmericanEagle.com. AmericanEagle.com re-architected P.F. Chang's website, integrating multiple third-party systems to create a unified digital experience. The results? Improved page speed and performance, personalized content based on users' location, intuitive online ordering, and increased increase in organic search visibility, and a 40% increase in new users. For scratch-made Asian cuisine, visit your local P.F. Chang's or go to pfchangs.com for website design, development, digital marketing, and hosting that produce efficiency, revenue, and results. Visit AmericanEagle.com. P.F. Chang's at AmericanEagle.com. Another example of the best businesses in the world. Turning to the best in the business for websites. Go to AmericanEagle.com or call 877-WEB-NOW1. That's 877-WEB-NOW1.
It's football season, and the NFL is in full effect on the free Odyssey app. We're heading into the final stretch of the regular season, and the playoff picture is starting to come into focus. Whatever team you're rooting for, the free Odyssey app has you covered with the local talk and your team's podcasts. Plus, listen to play-by-play of every Sunday night, Monday night, and Thursday night game from Westwood One. If you're looking for the NFL, it's all on the free Odyssey app. Download it today and search for your favorite team. That's AUDACY.
Don't miss new deals every day during Lowe's 25 Days of Deals. Get up to 50% off select tools and accessories. Plus, bring home a Werner 4-foot fiberglass stepladder, now just $29.98. And get same-day delivery for eligible in-stock items when you order by 2 p.m. Lowe's knows deals every day. Valid through 12/20 while supplies last. Selection varies by location. Delivery by 8 p.m. Subject to driver availability. Fees vary based on purchase. Additional terms apply. See Lowe's.com/same-day delivery for details.
This holiday season, find all kinds of deals at Target. Discover sweet deals on toys and small appliances, big deals on clothing and beauty, plus so much more. At Target, get what you need for the holidays. Find new deals each week for everyone on your list and get it all fast with free drive up. Score low prizes and great deals all season long. Now at Target. Exclusions apply.
Love like this before.
On game day, there's nothing like tailgating, touchdowns, and Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea. Twisted Tea goes down smooth and tastes like real iced tea because it's made with real brewed tea. Cool, refreshing, and a 5% kick of alcohol. Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea. Look for the bright yellow cans wherever you buy beer. Keep it twisted.
Twisted Tea Brewing Company, Cincinnati, Ohio. Please drink responsibly. For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional grade supplies for every industry, even hard to find products. And we have same day pickup and next day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Dude, you gotta hear this.
Go ahead. I think I want to hear this.
Sports Daily is on KFH.
Welcome back, everybody. Just a reminder that Chiefs games are available live for free over on KNSS and on the Odyssey app. Tune into KNSS Sunday for NFL action, the Chiefs on the road in Foxborough, or simply download the free Odyssey app and search for KNSS at kickoff. Paul, let's talk a little bit about this matchup on Sunday. The Chiefs on the road in Foxborough taking on the Patriots. We picked the game just a few minutes ago. You talked about the turmoil going on with the Patriots, and that's all true. And the future of Bill Belichick as the coach there. There's quite a bit of turmoil going on in Kansas City as well right now. You got two teams right now that are coming in not happy with the way things stand. What's it going to take, do you think, for Kansas City to bounce back?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's going to take. Boy, that's a really good question. And of course, obviously, being physical up front is what I like to see. And as long as they're physical up front, every team that has that physicality is going to be in a football game. But it's deeper than that. It's deeper than that. I was going to give you a physical answer. Something in the way somebody's playing. I'm not sure that that's the problem. The problem right now is there's a mental situation on this team. And by the way, to see Patrick Mahomes come back out and, apologize for berating the officials and questioning, the NFL and how they do things. And a referee is supposed to give you a warning or advise you to back up. And that's not in the rule books, as we all know. So you got to get by that stuff. we talk about distractions, and I've always said it never does any good to argue with referees, because the more coaches argue with referees, the more players becomes distracted with the referees as well. This is a distracted football team. How do you get back to being where you're focused? Well, that's based upon practice. That's based upon meetings. That's based upon coaches harping on what it's going to take mentally to win another football game in the NFL before the season's over. And that's where this team is. It's a team that's got to refocus, and this is up to that coaching staff to get this team to refocus. There are ways to do it. Been a part of it. Know how it works. Seen it, done it. But it needs to be done. This is a team, in my opinion, that is not well focused. And Tommy, I mean, I could go through some things and say, well, the receivers got to play better. We got to cut down on the turnovers, cut down on the mistakes. More third down. I could go through and give you a list of all the things that but this is a mental thing. We got to see them refocus and focus on football and nothing else.
It's a really critical game, I think, for Kansas City, because things could go one way or another, right? Like they could bounce. They could bounce back.
Yes.
They're playing a Patriots team that is not very good.
No.
They're 3-10.
That's right.
They don't have the playmakers. They don't have the talent on their roster. They just don't. So there's an opportunity for Kansas City to get right, make it a get right game. But then, man, there's also the potential on the table that it could go south again. And if it does, then at that point, you're dealing with major, major issues for Kansas City.
That's right.
I think it's a crucial game for the Chiefs. They've got to be focused. And I would love to get your perspective on this. We've not talked about, from your perspective, the offsides, the Kadarius Toney situation, the Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, that whole play, and then the subsequent emotions that came into it. We saw Patrick Mahomes more upset than we ever have. We saw Andy Reid probably more upset than we ever had. As a coach, what was your takeaway from all of that?
We were offsides. The penalty needed to be thrown. You can't blame the official. Was he offsides? Tommy, yes or no?
Yeah.
No, he was offsides. Well, that's on him. All the time, and I know you've been to a lot of football games. You watch a lot of football personally, where you're able to see wide receivers all the time look over to the outside official on the line. Am I okay? And, the referee gives a nod. Usually it's a, yeah, you didn't say anything. He gives a nod. Yes, you're okay. Sometimes they're not okay, and you still get the nod. I swear to God, I've seen it where they were encroaching, and yet they still get the nod from the official, and the play goes on. Nobody ever says anything. But it's not upon the official to make sure somebody's backed up. Somebody asks, "Are we okay?" You tell them, and that's okay. That's the way it can be. But if you remember correctly, watching that particular play, Rice did not look over to the official and ask, "Am I okay?"
Kadarius Toney.
I'm sorry. Kadarius Toney. I'm sorry. That's what I meant. He did not look over and ask, "Am I okay?" He didn't do that. That means it's on him, and he was definitely offside. There is no blaming the officials on this thing. You want to blame somebody, blame Toney. That's who you blame. And for Andy Reid, to make a big deal of it, I was surprised that he even talked about it to the length that he did. Where to insinuate, well, they're supposed to tell us, give us a warning and all that. No, that's not in the rule books. That's not in the rule books, Tommy. It's not incumbent upon a referee to give a warning in that situation. It's not in the rule books. And so
I mentioned it earlier. I mentioned it earlier this week, and I'll say it again. I think the reason why I was most disappointed in Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid by talking about the issue with the referee and offsides and all of that was because I think it took away attention from the real issues that are plaguing this team. It took time away from talking about the real issues that are going on.
That's a good
The
point.
turnovers, the self-inflicted mistakes, the penalties, all the different things that play into it. Yeah, of course, you're going to be frustrated when a potentially game-winning touchdown is wiped off the board. Anybody would be upset about that. I get it. But that's not the reason why the team lost the game.
No.
They got out to a 14-0 deficit against the Buffalo Bills. They shot themselves in the foot multiple times. That's why they lost the game. And so for these guys to come out and just continue to rail against the officiating, it takes away attention from them taking time to fix the real issues that are plaguing the team. And hopefully this entire week of practice, they've done that. They've worked on refocusing. They've worked on the mental issues. They've worked on cleaning things up with penalties and turnovers and all of that, because they're going to have that not only this weekend, but the remainder of the regular season. And if they have any hope at all to make a deep run in the playoffs.
Well, I'm hopeful. I'm going to tell you why I'm hopeful. The very next day, and I'm talking about the very next day after the initial press conference with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and that kind of thing, Patrick Mahomes came out and kind of did a little, back up a little bit. Wait a second, referees aren't to blame. We're to blame, and he gave a little mea culpa. I don't know if it was an outright apology for what he was saying, but I got the sense that it was somewhat of an apology. He understood. I like that. Now, for me, that bodes well for the mindset of the Chiefs, because let's face it, Patrick Mahomes is the lifeblood. He is the way this team thinks. What Patrick Mahomes thinks, this team thinks. He's that leader. He is that guy. He's the man. And if he comes out and says, something, it's not on them, it's us, we got to clean up our own act. I like that. Tommy, I like that. I think that might bode well for the Kansas City Chiefs with their mindset in that fashion. So I'm a little optimistic. I think it sounds like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think it bodes well for the Chiefs when Patrick Mahomes comes up, does a slight mea culpa. I think it's a good thing. Tommy, am I onto something, or where do you think this team goes? Is this team capable of getting by some of the things that infected this team? The play of the receivers, the penalty, the lost game to the Bills. Where is this team, in your opinion? Do they clean up their act?
So I may be a little bit more negative than the average person because I'm not sure that they do.
Okay.
And here's the reason why.
Why?
Somebody asked me this on social media actually earlier this week.
All right.
My answer was, I feel like there have been several pivotal moments that have already happened this season where you could look at that moment and say, okay, this is the time that Kansas City turns it around. And then they didn't. So what would lead us to believe that this will be any different than any of the previous times? So here's an example of that.
All right.
They play the Philadelphia Eagles in primetime the week of Thanksgiving, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling drops a wide open touchdown pass that would have won the game for the Chiefs.
Would have won the game.
And at that point, you could have easily said, that's the moment right there where the Kansas City Chiefs finally get their act together. They overcome their issues, they come together, and they win. And then they lost to the Packers in primetime. And then they lost to the Bills in front of another national audience on Sunday. So they didn't take advantage of that situation that happened to them to come together, rally around each other, and make it better. So what would lead us to believe they're going to do that moving forward? And maybe it is the leadership of Patrick Mahomes. Maybe it is the leadership of Andy Reid. Maybe it's all of those things. I just don't know if I can count on it, because for all the years that Mahomes has been the quarterback of this team, there have been so many moments where he has taken over and he has willed the team to victory. He hasn't been able to do that at the clip that we're used to seeing him do it. So far this season. He can't do it all. He can't throw the ball and catch it and block for himself and play defense. He can't do all of it. There are other players on that team that have to step up, but there's been no indication as of so far that they can do so.
Interesting. Well, I think one of us is going to obviously be correct on this. I hope it's me, Tommy, and I know you hope it's me as well, because we want to see the Chiefs get on the other side.
I want to see it.
Absolutely.
I just don't know. I just don't know if I can bank on it. I don't know if I can count on it.
Yeah.
I want to be very clear. I picked it in the last segment. I think Kansas City wins the game. I'm just not sure that it's going to be a big blowout. Things are kind of up in the air right now, so we'll find out. Of course, we know that game will take place on Sunday at noon. It's a noon kick. You can hear all of it over on KNSS. Let's take another break. Our final full segment is on the way on the other side. We'll take a quick look at what you can expect in the world of college basketball this weekend. That's on the way for you next. Tommy Castor, Paul Savage, Jad Chambers at Sports Daily. We'll be right back.
go.
Sports Daily is on KFH.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. It's our final full segment here on Sports Daily. A couple of minutes, so a pretty short segment here. Let's go to the IHOP hotline at 869-1240. Dave is on the line, wants to talk a little KU. What's up, Dave?
Hi. Being a fellow KU guy, I saw the news last week about they're having some problems with the stadium renovation and maybe have to consider Arrowhead. Do you know any more about the problem or what's going on?
So that's a good question. I know that they are, deep into renovations right now. I saw photos on social media just the other day where, they're really, everything is basically coming down at that point. I've not heard any kind of official confirmation that Arrowhead is where it looks like the football games will be played, but I know it's on the table as an option. I think that there are obviously a lot of logistics that have to go into that. But I do think that could be a place where, they play and that could add a lot of excitement. Think about the players getting an opportunity to play in a venue like Arrowhead on Saturdays for a year. So I know that's at least on the table.
Well, can I just throw something in real quick, fellas, if you don't mind, real quick, from what I've heard, there's a thing that they're getting more into basic foundation and structural problems more than they thought was going to be the case. And that happens on a place that old, there's always going to be something that you don't foresee. And that's my understanding is they're running into certain problems as they get deeper into the reworking of this stadium, that some of those problems are taking place. Now, with regards to the negotiations with Arrowhead, Tommy, you're exactly right. They're going on right now as we speak. I will be stunned if something isn't worked out. I'll be truly amazed if it can't be worked out to be able to play in Arrowhead, because they're not going to be, for the most part, conflicts. There might be one or two. I guess there could be, but since basically KU plays on Saturdays and the Chiefs play on Sunday, I don't see how it could be. I think it'd be great for the Kansas City area. It'd be great for KU in a lot of ways with regards to recruiting and visibility and all those kind of things. And I think it would be really fun for the kids and the coaches to be able to coach in a place like Arrowhead. So that's where they're at. I will be stunned if it's not worked out that the Kansas Jayhawks do not play in Arrowhead. I'll be very surprised. It's good for everybody. Good for KU. Good for the city of Kansas City. It's good for the businesses in Kansas City. I think it's going to be. I think they're going to work it all out. It'll be just fine.
Well, that's all good and true, but it's devastating economically for Lawrence.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
And by the way,
that's a good point.
That is a heck of a point. I've always been against playing games on neutral grounds, and basketball or football, because there's a lot of small businesses, mom and pop restaurants and coffee shops and bars and hotels and you name it, and that employs a lot of people in a town like Lawrence. You're right. It's not going to be good for Lawrence. There's no whitewashing that. That's just the way it's going to be.
And look, the other thing I want to say very quickly on this is that it's not just issues like with the revenue going out of Lawrence. It's the fact that they're going to be playing across the border in a neighboring state. So then, you've got revenue that'll be going to the state of Missouri as opposed to staying in the state of Kansas.
A lot of sales taxes.
It's a temporary situation. It's something that I'm kind of with you, Paul. I would be shocked if it doesn't happen, but I know they've got to work through that. They've got to work through the revenue piece. They've got to work through the fact that it's going to Missouri and not Kansas.
Well, there's no place to play it in the state of Kansas other than Kansas State. Now I'd really
look. They could go
where
wanted to. I may go to see Children's Mercy Park, where Sporting KC plays. On the other side of the Kansas border. They could potentially look at
what does that
like
seat,
that.
by the way? What does that seat? That
off the top of my head, I don't know.
Isn't it like 10 or 15? It's not like it's. Well, I guess. I guess.
But look, I think to wrap a bow on this, and Dave, thanks so much for your call. We appreciate it. I think to wrap a bow on it, I think it's going to happen. I think it will happen where we will see the Jayhawks playing at Arrowhead. I don't exactly know the logistics of it. I don't exactly know how it's all going to pan out. But it wouldn't surprise me one bit, to see that happen as they're working on this renovation. And then, the revenue goes away temporarily. But man, think about when that stadium is done, and all that money coming right back in
Yeah.
to the state of
Real
Kansas
quick.
and to Lawrence.
Jad said 18.5 is what that ballpark seats. 18.5. That's not enough.
Huh? Maybe it's going to a little bit more demand on tickets if they do that. I think it could be a temporary solution.
You think?
I think it could be a temporary solution.
I got you.
But I think it's going to be Arrowhead. And of course, as time goes on,
Right.
we'll have more info on that
Right.
as it comes available. All right, we're going to take our final timeout. When we come back, we'll tell you what's on the network this weekend. It's all for you coming up on Sports Daily. Buddy, that's going to do it for us. Let's very quickly go through our schedule this weekend. Jim Rome at 11, Bob and Jeff at 2, Zach Gelb at 4. Tonight at 7 o'clock, the Jerome Kane radio show on KFH. A triple header of NFL action tomorrow on KFH. Vikings, Bengals, Steelers, Colts, then Broncos, Lions. Over on KNSS, Shocker Women's Basketball at 12:45. Shocker Men's Basketball at 5 o'clock on KUIN. And on Sunday, the Chiefs at the Patriots on KNSS, pregame at 11. K-State basketball versus Nebraska at 1 o'clock here on KFH. And then Sunday night football at 6:30 right here on KFH. Paul, have a great weekend. Thanks for being here, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you, my friend. Have a great weekend yourself. Don't forget, come see me at Wichita Community Theater.
All right, sounds great. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you back here on Monday.